promise, or I try not to. I work very hard, never to break a promise. But this week has been absolutely crazy. Like I've started a business, and this jewelry business, as you can see, if you want to join my members channel, please do so. If you want to become a subscriber, you know the drill. If you want to, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. The members channel is $1.99, and you get so much more access to everything and more content. So sit back and relax, and if you like this kind of content, then please hit that thumbs up button. Don't be shy, don't be shy, don't be shy. Alright, are you ready to relax, 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 relax? By one of my favorite authors, Shadow Swimmer, 77 Shadow Swimmer. Shadow Swimmer, 77. Standing. This is called, sorry, Her Red Right Hand, and I don't think I've ever read this. But I have 500 videos, so if I have, I'm sorry, I want to get you up a creepypasta tonight. Farewell, happy fields where joy forever dwells. Hail, horrors hail. John Milton, Paradise Lost. Standing under the glow of a flickering streetlight, John Avery's hands shook as he tried and failed to light the cigarette they held. With a mumbled curse, the stubborn smoke finally caught, and he inhaled deeply the quick rush of nicotine. The quick rush of nicotine helping steady nerves and hands alike. While driving back, the persistent urge to vomit that had, until a moment ago, been so pressing. The flashing reds and blues of patrol cars shattered by the light, yet steady. Drops of falling rains illuminated the yards of yellow tape that surrounded the building behind him. The old factory where once countless animals screamed their last breath before meeting the butcher's knife had long ago fallen into disuse. Until recently, the man who walked into the station earlier that evening had carried an oddly shaped bag. The desk sergeant was on the phone, or else he would have sooner noticed the crimson spatters, some still wet, that covered the man's face and clothes. The slow drip, 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 drip of fluid that leaked from the bag, marking the bloody trail behind him. The sergeant's attention was only captured when the man poured a fountain of gore upon the desk. Assorted limbs and organs intermixed in a disgusting soup of blood, and awful long ropes of intestines curling and twisting around livers, lungs, and here and there a sightless eye. The only one of the few people milling about the police lobby, not really moved by his unholy offering. The man had simply stepped back from the desk and lowered himself to his knees, hand interlaced above his head. He simply remained there, grotesque smile never leaving his face, until the pandemonium was sufficiently controlled and the officers on duty were able to make his arrest. He talked then, briefly handcuffed to a table to the interrogation room. His name was Spencer. Spencer Darbont. The various body parts belonged to his wife Tracy and their 3 children, all girls between the ages of 5 and 10. He told the police where to find the rest of them. Oh my gosh. John had worked homicide for the last 20 years, but even now, rapidly approaching retirement, he had never seen anything like this. I can't imagine. That was saying something. The Wake was no stranger to odd, even fantastic murders until a couple hours ago. John would have said there was nothing that could have shocked him, Nothing that could take him back to the short breath and heaving nausea he'd experienced the first time he'd seen a dead body. That 2-bit prostitute gutted and dumped into a back alley. But he would have been wrong, you see. The bodies, horrific as they might be, were not what caused John's gore to rise and bile to come to the top of his stomach, for he had seen many, and far greater states decay. Neither was it the obvious tools of torture haphazardly spread throughout the factory. Oh, here it was a welding kit. There a jar of industrial strength acid over their various implements to flay, scoop, and pierce. But no. What had hit John hardest was the old television connected to an ancient VCR. The yellow paper stuck to its black screen, reading, "Play me." The scene that unfolded in the first 30 seconds of that video was enough to open John's perspective to just how shallow his understanding of human perversion had been. That poor little girl. A rat-eaten cardboard box placed next to the television contained more videotapes. Many more videotapes. John knew before the investigation was over he would have to painstakingly go through each one of them. Each one of them for evidence. And the brief exposure he just experienced had him already concerned for his mental health. All cases left scars, and they do. Trust me, they do. But some far deeper than others. His phone vibrated, and John flicked aside the half-burned cigarette before fishing it out of his pocket, checking the caller ID. He sighed before flipping it open. The only reason Lisa would be calling this late was if Paul was stonewalling her again. Leave it to a cop's daughter to marry a cop. Yeah, hon? Dad, what's going on? I was supposed to be home 2 hours ago, but said something came up and won't tell me anything. Oh, it's a new case, sweetheart. Nothing I can fill you in on, so I'm sorry. Chief's got him keeping an eye on the perp until we give the scene an initial once over and hopefully get ahead of the media shitstorm sure to follow. You want more details? You can get it from the talking heads, same as everybody else. Her voice got quiet at that. Is it really that bad? Oh, he grimaced. Honey, it's pretty bad. Okay, just tell him to be careful and that I love him. I will do. Try not to worry too much, though, sweetheart. Won't be good for the baby. He could hear the smile in her voice. He'll be fine. He comes from good stock, honey. John smiled back. Mostly from your mother's side. Becky's still okay with the pregnancy. Sweet as ever. Can't wait to be a big sister. That's my girl. Okay, hon. Gotta go. I'll tell Paul to check in when he can. Thanks, Dad. I love you. I love you too. Closing the phone, John returned to his pocket. He shook his head to clear it. Steeling himself before turning and re-entering the building, he crossed over to what they were considering the center of the crime scene. They'd stationed large portable lights around its perimeter to better illuminate the dingy confines of the area where a small group of people were swarming. Placing numbered placards, and snapping pictures. Tell me what you've got, Ramirez. The lead CSI, from where he was crouched in the process of packing a piece of evidence. John's stomach gurgled unhappily when he saw it appear to be a child ear. Good news, depending on how you look at it, boss. Won't be able to confirm they belong to the Darbund until we get back to the lab, but there's a crystal clear print all over pretty much every knife and hatchet and assorted pointy object in here. We've got fibers, hair samples, the whole gamut. And Charlie's saying, based on her initial screening of the remains, she should be able to pull blood and semen from, pretty much anywhere. It doesn't look like our boy was particularly concerned about hiding what he was doing. John placed his fingers on the bridge of his nose as he felt the beginnings of a migraine start to kick in. Anything that might indicate some kind of motive, journal, anything like that? Not yet, boss. No telling what's on those tapes, though. John grimaced. Great, and what about the messenger? Ramirez shook his head. As one, the two men turned to the far end of the crime scene amid a litany of other abuses. Skin from the torsos of the 4 victims had been delicately removed. Interesting use of words. And spread across one of the factory walls like a horrific canvas. A word was painted in blood and each in turn. Her red right hand. Not sure, boss. I took the liberty of Googling it. Closest thing looks like a paraphrasing of something out of Milton's Paradise Lost. My guess is the perp is referring to himself, although I have no idea who the her he's referring once. You never know what's gonna be the thing to make it stick. The clown is a real sick puppy, and I don't think any of us would sleep particularly well if he manages to avoid a conviction based on a technicality. I'm gonna head back to the office, have a sit down with him, see if he feels like taping a confession before he has more time to think about what he's done and turns around as a believer in sanity. Sounds good, boss. I'll call you if we find anything especially pertinent. Although his gaze swept over the scene. At this point, I'm not sure what would qualify. John shook his head in agreement and headed for the door. Just as he reached his car, he felt his phone vibrate again. "Hey Steve, tell me you boys have something over there." "Yeah. Hey John." "Yeah, we got a little bit for you." "Don't know if it'll shed any light though. Bob and I went over to the Darbont residence. The guy's an MD, works in the ER at St. Vincent's in town here. Here's the thing. There's no record. There's nothing so much as a parking ticket. No sign of a struggle at the house. His supervisor at the hospital said Darbont phoned in last week to call off a couple shifts, just saying they were taking an impromptu family vacation. He apparently told the kids' school the same thing. His wife stayed at home with the youngest girl, so there was no one that would have noticed her missing right away. We managed to track Darbont's mom down, lady in her 70s, and got concerned when she hadn't heard from him. I guess he typically visits her on Sundays. She swung by the house and found a note saying the whole family was going to be out of town for a couple weeks. Seems kind of odd, don't you think?" Yeah, she thought so too. It weirded her out, and since normally he would have called her even more when she couldn't get him on his cell, but the note was in Darbont's handwriting. More evidence. Awesome. She wasn't quite concerned enough to contact the department. John frowned. Honestly, it probably wouldn't have mattered if she had. If everything else you've got is true, there'd be nothing to flag it. Even if she'd reported him as a missing person, any idea why he would have shown up here in the wake? I don't know. Nothing we've found so far doesn't seem to have any connection to the place in particular. Far as his mom knew, he's never even visited your part of the state. John sighed. The headache. Worsening now. Actually, it was in full force. Alright. Thanks. I appreciate it. Steve, yeah, I appreciate your help. Thank you. Tell Chief McQuaid I said hey. Will do, John. We'll keep sniffing over here. See if anybody at the hospital has anything more that can help us, or maybe they can tell us anything. Check if they noticed him acting out of character recently. Sounds good. With all the evidence it's looking like we've got, I think finding a motive will just be pure gravy. I'll talk to you later. Later, man. With much to ponder, John got in his car and started back towards the station. It was past midnight when he parked in the lot. The shadows dark and thrown long by lamps, lining the way up the path to the administrative entrance. John pulled out his lanyard with his staff key and let himself in. Handed his pistol and side piece to the spirally who was on night guard as he passed through the metal detector. Then he reholstered his weapons before making his way towards the squad room, passing the ever-overflowing board displaying the many missing children of the wake. The bullpen was deserted. Small wonder Arthur's wake wasn't even large enough to warrant much of a police force, so all available units were pretty much already at the scene or resting up to start their shift in the morning. He frowned at the chief's darkened office. Lazy asshole. The man had been mentally checked out for years now, just biding his time to a retirement looming even closer than John's. If things had gone a little different, it could have been John wearing the pants in the department, but no. That was an old gripe, no sense rehashing it now. Not with work being done. He grabbed a pen, a pad of paper, digital tape recorder, and writes waiver before heading back to the interrogation room. He was met outside the door by Officer Paul Schuster, who, aside from being a solid cop, was also his son-in-law. Hey, Paul, Chief Holbrook, check out. Yeah, yes, sir. A couple of hours ago. Said he needed to get some sleep to be able to face the press in the morning. And how's our guest? He's still in the interrogation room, sir, right where you asked me to keep him. John looked at the perp through the one side glass. The guy was weird, man. I mean, how is he? Oh, well, he's odd, sir. I mean, seriously odd. Jesus, how many times do I have to tell you it's John? Unless we're in a formal setting. Christ, what do you mean odd? What do I mean odd? I don't know, he's just sitting there and that creepy smile on his face. He hasn't asked for a cell phone, a phone call, a lawyer, a cup of coffee. I mean, the man's a physician, nothing. Paul's face curled. Pretty sure he pissed himself, even though Spirely had given him plenty of opportunity at that. John frowned. Has he said anything more? Nope. No, not a thing. Not since the initial intel where we could find the bodies. Sir, John, I mean, this scene, did you find the wife and kids? Well, what was left of them? John chewed his lip thoughtfully. Alright. Let's go talk to this son of a bitch. Paul's eyes widened. Sir, do you think that's a good idea? The chief said, yeah, right. Chief, look, Paul, do you see anybody in the chief's office? 'Cause I sure as hell don't. He's sleeping. We gotta get this done before he changes his mind or lawyers up. Look, Paul. Look, I'm going in with some forms and a tape recorder, see if I can't get this psycho to give me a confession. Before he changes his mind, you know. You know, they like to lawyer up after they've thought about what they've done. If you aren't comfortable skirting the chief's orders a little, how about you call my daughter so she stops calling me and worrying about you? Paul pondered this for a moment. Okay. You go in there, I'm coming with you. The guy's chained up and your wife is worried why you haven't called. Paul shook his head. Can't do it, sir. It would be a breach of protocol to allow one officer in a room with a suspect. Besides, Lisa'd kill me if something happened to you. John couldn't help but laugh. Alright, you friggin' Boy Scout. Have you ever managed to bag credentials he had brought with him to the side, he heard Paul take up a position behind him, leaning against the wall. At last, John turned his attention to the prisoner. The room was well lit to allow for easy observation, but some trick of the light seemed to drape the suspect in shadow. His hair was long and matted with blood, falling forward, hiding his face behind it. He was a big, fat man with weight of a middle age. His clothes were covered and stained with the many fluids of the victims. As John watched, Darbont looked at him, his eyes seeming to glow with a red sheen through the curtains of his hair. Gray's smile never leaving his lips. John repressed an involuntary shiver. Odd, was not how he would have described the man. Terrifying, absolutely, but odd. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. John cleared his throat, forced a tight smile. So, Dr. Darbont, Doc, is it okay to call you Spencer? Yeah. The prisoner replied with an almost imperceptible nod. Great. Glad we're getting off to on a good foot. Now, Spencer, I'm Detective Avery. You, me, and my friend, Officer Schuster here are going to have a nice little chat about what happened to your family, okay? Again with the nod. Fantastic. Now I'm required to ask if you'd like to have a lawyer present. This time, a small headshake. Alrighty then. Now, since there's no lawyers present, do I have your permission to record this conversation? John frowned slightly when Darbont shook his head in the negative. He didn't have his permission. Okay then. John slid the recorder from the table and passed it back to Paul, stealthily pressing the record button as he did so. Paul slipped the recorder into his pocket, and when the red light would be concealed, John turned back to Darbont. Real quick, before we get started, Dr. Darbont, I'm going to need you to sign this form saying you've agreed to talk to me and you don't want a lawyer. John slid the form over to the prisoner, feeling a slight moment of apprehension when Darbont took the pen in his large, meaty hand before scrawling an imperceptible signature on the indicated line and handed it back to him. Thank you so much. She passed the form to Paul. Throughout these preliminaries, John had slowly become aware that something was off about Darbont. He couldn't put his finger on just what it was, couldn't put that finger on, the finger on just what was wrong with this man. He'd interviewed enough murderers to know this guy wasn't right. Even so far as crazy killers went, whatever it was, that indefinable thing scared him, almost beyond reason. It sparked or spoke to some ancient reptilian part of John's brain and told him to put as much distance between him and that thing sitting across the table as humanly possible. Shaking his head to clear it, John pressed on, hoping he projected more confidence than he felt, beginning to think that conducting this interview may have been a mistake. Now, Spencer, I'm an old-fashioned kind of guy, so I'm gonna be direct with you. I don't really need you to confess, because I already have enough evidence to lock you away for a really, really long time. So what I'm really curious about John peered at the killer, sitting across from him. You know what I'm curious about, Spencer, is why. Why did you kill your family? Why would you kill your family? John asked in a voice that almost gave away his trepidation. The silence, pregnant with anticipation. John's perception took on a kind of hypersensitivity. The taste of burger he had for lunch coming back, and he could smell the faint, sweet aroma of Paul's aftershave behind him, accompanying the stench of dark gore staining the prisoner's clothes to his front. He swallowed uneasily despite himself. At last, Darbon spoke, his voice almost a whisper, but nevertheless carrying the sound of a grapple poured over metal sheeting. You want to know why I did it? Yeah, I do, Spencer. For fun. His manic grin widened even further as tiny hairs on the back of John's neck stood up at full attention, and he desperately fought the urge to wet himself. But you're a family man once, detective, I can tell. Ever wonder how your little girl tastes? Darbon smiled lasciviously. I know in every way you could mean, he chuckled lightly. Didn't bother to pack groceries for our family outing. Didn't need to. Just fried up little pieces off of them to feed each other. They refused at first, but I found ways to motivate them to choke it down. He sighed as if remembering. My wife was easiest. You wouldn't believe the things I got her to do by promising to stop hurting your babies. Well, I guess you'll know if you see the tapes, he laughed evilly. If you live so long, of course. I lied to her. Saw the hope die a little more in the bitch's eyes every time. Still didn't keep her from agreeing the next time, or the next, or the next, or the next, as he licked his lips. That thrill right there, seeing her spirit chipped away bit by bit, was almost as good as the pleasure I got turning her spawn into such willing little horrors. He threw his voice higher. Daddy, I'll do anything, just please don't cut off any more toes, he chuckled. That factory got some good memories there. Old, new, darkness is on the rise, detective. Shadows coming, the wolves howl, the serpents hiss. You're gonna have to make choices. You all will make choices. John stared at the man. And what choice is that? Darbon smiled. Whether to be a good little meat sack who deserves his masters willingly, or one who needs to be broken. I like the ones who fight. He ran his tongue across the front of his teeth. Makes the agony that much sweeter. Which will you choose, detective? When the sun goes dark and the moon falls silent, when the song of joy echoes across the land, which will you choose? John felt frozen where he sat, his pounding of his heart, a drum in his ears. Paul equally still behind him as Durant fell quiet, grinning madly. Finally, John managed to stutter out another question. is her red right hand? Who is she? From within the dark recesses of his matted hair, John could see Darbon's eyes glowed red, glowed bloody, glowed scarlet, no question now. Impossible, as it was. Why, I'm the red right-hand detective. I'm her prophet. The one who prepares the path, spreading discord and despair wherever I roam. And as for her, he laughed. It was crazy, but it seemed that to John, that Darbon's teeth were lengthening, were sharpening, sharpening. She is the All-Mother, the first, the one who leads the way. He grinned, who leads the way into darkness. Abruptly, the lights went off in the station. Off. And then they went out. There was a brief moment of silence before John heard a sharp metallic snap that his mind dimly registered must be the sound of handcuff chains being broken. Suddenly he was thrown backwards out of his chair to the ground as this enormous black thing, all glowing red eyes and flashing fangs, flipped the heavy metal table across the room and flew at him with a roar. He yelled and raised his hands in defense, but the attack never came. Instead, he heard a crash and the sound of a desperate struggle. Sir, shoot him. I can't hold him. I can't. Ah, damn it, Paul cried. Jesus, damn it, no. At that, the voice of his son-in-law screaming in pain, the crippling fear was driven out of John as sharply as if he'd been dunked in a bucket of ice water. Years of training took over, and regaining his feet, he fumbled briefly to release his pistol from his holster, pulling it free. He used Paul's cries to orient himself, raising the gun towards the mound of inky blackness that seemed even darker than its surroundings. John pulled the trigger once, twice, each shot accompanied by a white flash and the sound of thunder, again and again, until the chambers were empty and the gun only clicked howlily. As the echo of the last shot faded away, the dark mass fell heavily to the ground at his feet. John turned back to the room's interior. The light leaking in from the hallway provided just enough illumination so he could see Spencer Darbon, limp and lying face downward. He'd fallen on top of Paul's unmoving form. John lowered his gun to his side, a black hole rapidly expanding in his stomach. God, oh God, how is he gonna tell Lisa? He tensed when Darbon shifted. Hell, Paul groaned. John, you think you could get this fat ass off me? John sat at his desk, a cup of lukewarm coffee held in his hand, a lit cigarette between his fingers. Smoking inside was strictly against the chief's policy, but screw him. Darbon's body was still cooling on the floor of the interrogation room when he'd died, as John hadn't quite yet worked up the motivation to call Ramirez to tell Charlie to come grab the stiff. Spirley was back at his guard station. John had practically had to force him back there, only after ensuring him that he and Paul were both fine. He sent Paul home to Lisa. Miraculously, the kid was basically unharmed. A few bumps, bruises, and scratches, but nothing too major. When John asked him why he'd screamed, he said the freak had been trying to bite his neck off all things. the cigarette in the bottom of an empty cup. Psycho. He'd already decided he was going to leave Paul's involvement out of the official report. John figured he'd be able to spin the whole thing so that there wouldn't be too much trouble brought down on anyone. He knew Sparley would back up whatever he said, but the kid didn't deserve the heat. Neither did Lisa. John sighed. Probably did the world a favor by sanctioning Darbon the way he had. The guy was so nuts, he'd even had John seeing things at the end there. Her red right hand. Psst, right. Good luck. Preparing the way for the darkness now. Sicko. The morning sun was just about to peek its face over the horizon when John at last headed home to get his car. Darbon had been bagged and tagged. His initial report had been filed and all pertinent parties had been notified. Chief Holbrook had been pissed, although John figured it was as much from being woken up at 3 in the morning as from learning John had shot their murder suspect. He'd been mollified when John informed him that he'd managed to get a taped confession out of Darbon, no matter that he hadn't agreed to taping. It had been easy enough to forge a signature on top the appropriate form. At some point in the night, he realized Paul must have ended up taking the tape recorder with him, along with the right waivers he'd handed him. Small wonder he'd forgotten them with everything that had gone on. John would just have to swing by his and Lisa's place and pick them up before going back to the station that afternoon. John took in the morning sun, almost surprised at the lightness in his heart. He'd never killed a man before last night, but maybe his feeling was because he had served to remove a piece of true darkness from the world. His pocket vibrated as he fished his phone out. A minute later, John had slapped his magnetic flasher to the roof and was pushing the old Chevy to its breaking point as he roared across the wake, siren wailing. "Might have something for you, John," Steve said. Just got done talking to an ER nurse that was on shift with Darbon at St. Vincent the last day he came back to work before disappearing. Said he treated some crazy woman, a homeless drifter that had been shot trying to sneak into a residence. EMTs had time to strap the psycho down and they had reestablished a heartbeat. The nurse said the patient had been raving on and on about darkness, about her right hand or some such. Anyway, the loony ended up managing to give your perp a solid bite in the forearm before they sedated her, and she calmed down. What? The nurse figured Darbon took a few days off to recover from the injury. But I'm wondering if he didn't catch some kind of virus. John hung up then. He pulled into Lisa's driveway and leapt out of the car without bothering to turn off the engine. Running up the walk, the house was dark. He drew his pistol. As he reached the front door, he paused for just a moment, considering whether it would be better to use his spare key to gain entry or simply kick the damn door down. When he noticed the white piece of paper taped to the inside of the screen, John removed the note with trembling hands and read it twice before collapsing to his knees, complete and utter despair. Hey, John, after all the excitement last night, I decided to take a few days off and figured I might as well take the whole family for a little vacation. Don't worry, I'll take good care of them. And I'll make sure to take plenty of home movies so you won't miss a thing. That daughter of yours, she's sure has spirit. See you soon. He recognized Paul's handwriting, even though the note was unsigned. The Wicker Saga. Dang. 1987. That was amazing. I like that one. Well, my loves, this was